The looms that made the most authentic denim on earth. The day they fell silent. For over a century, one mill in Greensboro, North Carolina wove the fabric behind America's most iconic jeans. Its rope-dyed indigo, its century-long handshake with Levi Strauss. None of it was enough. By December 2017, the last yard rolled off the line. What killed a business that everyone admired but no one could save? In the late 19th century, Moses Cone traveled the American South selling dry goods, observing a persistent problem. The miners, railroad crews, and factory laborers driving the nation's industrial expansion could often only afford a single pair of work pants a year. Yet the rugged denim they desperately required was in chronically short supply, plagued by volatile pricing and erratic quality from a fragmented network of distant suppliers. Moses saw the market gap. His brother, Caesar Cone, possessed the operational expertise to build a manufacturing powerhouse to solve it. The brothers realized that surviving in this market required eliminating supply friction through total vertical control. In the 1890s, they began buying extensive tracts of land in Greensboro, North Carolina. The location offered a decisive competitive advantage. Greensboro sat directly on the North Carolina Railroad line, surrounded by abundant cotton fields and active gins. This geographic nexus allowed the Cones to secure raw cotton locally, process it immediately, and distribute finished fabric nationwide via the rail network. By bypassing the traditional patchwork of middlemen, they stabilized both production costs and material consistency. In 1905, the brothers opened their flagship facility, the White Oak Mill, named after a massive 200-year-old oak tree shading the property. At its launch, it was the largest cotton mill in the American South, engineered specifically to churn out heavy-duty denim for a nation built on manual labor. Inside the mill, the rhythmic clack of Draper X3 shuttle looms defined the daily operations. These massive, cast-iron machines bound the weft yarn in a continuous loop, weaving a clean, self-finished edge, the selvedge, that prevented the fabric from fraying. This slow, high-tension process produced a narrow 30-inch bolt of 17-ounce heavyweight cloth. Prized for its dense, heavy grain, this specific fabric developed distinct, high-contrast fade patterns over years of hard wear. Before the warp yarns ever met the looms, they underwent a systematic rope dyeing process. Workers bound the raw cotton threads into thick cables, feeding them through successive vats of liquid indigo. Exposed repeatedly to the air, the dye oxidized, building a deep, rich blue shade layer by layer while leaving the core of the yarn white. To stabilize this dense textile, the mill applied sandforization, a mechanical finishing process that stretched and compressed the fibers to control shrinkage, ensuring a reliable fit long before the denim was cut and sewn into trousers. The industrial infrastructure that enabled this precision was forged through mid-century demands. Massive military supply contracts during the World Wars forced the mill to accelerate its equipment upgrades and refine its maintenance cycles, establishing high-volume production standards that carried directly into peacetime. By the 1950s, a booming blue-collar workforce adopted denim as its daily uniform. The rugged fabric, originally engineered for physical labor, transitioned from the factory floor to everyday wear, anchoring a new national wardrobe. This commercial dominance rested on a structural defense that competitors found impossible to replicate. In 1915, the Cone brothers finalized a handshake agreement with Levi Strauss and Company. This unwritten pact made White Oak the exclusive supplier of denim for the 501 shrink to fit jeans, initiating a partnership that lasted over a century. Rival mills could not break this bond because it was cemented by decades of reliable delivery, shared success, and mutual commercial reliance. Alongside these exclusive contracts, the mill possessed a quiet operational advantage in its workforce. Families spent lifetimes inside the facility, with veteran weavers passing highly specific mechanical knowledge down through generations. Tuning the Draper shuttle looms was an art form, not a science. Master weavers adjusted the shuttle speed to roughly 45 inches per minute, managing warp tension and beat-up timing by ear and touch. those variables no competitor could extract from a machinery manual. The raw economics of the mill also favored massive scale. White oak operated with strict minimum order requirements, thriving on massive volume rather than small, sporadic runs. The machinery was engineered to run continuously, making the plant highly efficient at scale, but too capital-heavy for smaller operations to challenge. This combination of a locked-in buyer, specialized human skill, and high-volume efficiency created a formidable protective moat around the Greensboro operation. By the late 20th century, the structural economic advantages that had protected white oak for decades began to dissolve. In 1975, the average American textile worker earned roughly $5.20 an hour. By 1995, domestic wages surged to $18.90 an hour, while overseas competitors operated with labor costs under $2 an hour. Alongside labor costs, a technological divide widened the gap. White oak's vintage Draper shuttle looms slowly wove fabric at 150 picks per minute, while overseas mills deployed modern shuttleless projectile looms running at speeds exceeding 1,500 picks per minute. This industrial disparity slashed the price of imported fabric to $5 a yard, while Greensboro's premium Selvedge required $12 to $14 to produce. The implementation of the North American Free Trade Agreement in 1994 and the elimination of global trade quotas in 1995 formalized this shift. Corporate procurement departments increasingly prioritize cost per yard over historic partnerships. The consequences hit white oak directly. In 2002, Levi Strauss & Company issued its first major order cancellation, and by 2006, all manufacturing for the iconic 501 jeans moved entirely overseas. Without the high-volume anchor contracts that sustained its massive scale, the mill operated at a multi-million-dollar deficit. The final break came in late 2017, when parent company International Textile Group announced that the historic Greensboro facility would close its gates forever on December 31st, silencing the looms after more than a century of continuous operation. During the early 2000s, a collector subculture sparked a heritage denim revival, renewing demand for authentic shuttle loom cloth. White oak adapted by accepting limited commissions for AG jeans, Teleson, and Levi's vintage clothing. These small batch collaborations, often under 10,000 yards, tested whether a boutique market could sustain the plant's massive infrastructure. But selling premium fabric at $15 a yard could not offset the mill's massive fixed overhead. The revival proved that appreciation for craftsmanship had returned, but a modern niche market could not support a century-old industrial giant. Ultimately, nostalgia could not overcome modern economics, leaving the silent Greensboro mill as a monument to an era when American utility was woven into daily life. Next, we examine the mechanical watch, tracing how another legacy industry survived sudden technological obsolescence. Subscribe to follow more stories of classic manufacturing. While these boutique runs generated significant media coverage, the financial reality of the white oak facility was governed by unforgiving math. The mill priced its premium, shuttle-woven denim, at $13 to $15 per yard. However, maintaining the vintage Draper looms, historic brick infrastructure, and highly skilled workforce required a baseline production of roughly 200,000 yards annually just to cover fixed operating costs. In 2016, the mill produced only about 120,000 yards. This volume gap left a devastating operating deficit of $1.5 million. The hard numbers proved that cultural prestige and niche admiration could not resolve the underlying structural crisis. Without high-volume commercial contracts to absorb the massive overhead, the mill's modern viability remained entirely out of reach. Today, we don't just wear history, we inherit its ghost. As genuine craft retreats into a luxury niche, we lose the quiet genius of everyday objects. Next, we uncover the steel that forged the classic pocket knife. Subscribe for more design histories.